Let's take a look at some information and charts on Monero for Brave New Coin. So Monero is a proof of work coin that previously used the crypto night algorithm. They switched to a new algorithm, RandomX, in late 2019. They had been adjusting the crypto night algorithm to stave off ASICs. And eventually they said, enough's enough, we're going to use something else completely different that's hopefully ASIC resistant. And it does this by promoting CPU mining over everything else. Since then, hash rate has increased rather dramatically, especially over the past 6 to 7 months. There were some spikes here that were likely cloud mining-ish related, and that's not to say that all of this might be botnet mining related. You know, anytime you think of Monero, you think of ransomware, because the privacy use case is that strong. It does its job extremely well, default on-chain privacy, better than anything else that we have in existence at the moment. So if you're going to commit a crime and you don't want to leave evidence, right? Monero is a good coin for that. It's not bullish or bearish, it just is what it is, as they say. That's how good the use case is. You know, they're trying to break Monero every day as far as the privacy, and thus far they have not, as far as I'm aware. So hash rate, incredibly healthy. If we look at inflation, Monero's inflation sits down here, basically mirroring BTC at the moment, around 1.5%. Now, Monero's to the point where I believe they mined close to 18.2 million or whatever it is, the cap is, the soft cap for total supply. And at this point in time, they will have a perpetual block reward, a security budget effectively, whereas BTC's inflation will continue to drop, and after 21 million coins are mined, there will not be any more block reward. So Monero and BTC are taking different approaches here. We'll see which one works out for the best. We don't know in however many years it is from now, 140 years, whatever it is, whether or not BTC will be secure at that point in time. Hopefully it will be. Hopefully price is high enough and transaction fees are high enough, or we have a security budget. That makes sense. We just don't know. Right? We don't know yet if that's enough. We have some theories. People have some theories that it's enough. Some people have some theories that it's not enough. But it's something to keep in mind. Then you have ETH, LTC, and Doge, kind of in this 4% grouping of inflation. Interesting that Doge has less inflation than ETH. And then Zcash, which has 11 to 12% inflation, 10x Monero almost. And it's just that's a tough sell to somebody if they're taken in the whole picture. Do they want to participate in optional privacy versus default privacy, where the default privacy has a 10x lower inflation rate? You know, as far as long-term holds go, you want to be down here. You don't want to be up here. If we look at transaction counts for Monero, transaction counts in the line here hit an all-time high yesterday, so incredibly strong on-chain metrics. Fees have held way down, still half a dime. Not half a nickel. It's a nickel. It's a nickel to send a Monero transaction. That is a steal. That is worth its money and then some, especially when you compare total fees or average fees to other chains. This says that the scaling that Monero has implemented with bulletproof improvements in 2018 has done well. Any changes that they've made to the chain since then with the RandomX stuff has done well. And it's certainly hard to be bearish long-term on the health of Monero, looking at stuff like this, where transactions are, 6x, 5x, and fees are kind of unchanged. I mean, they're still within the range that they were when fees were much lower, or when transactions were much lower. So this is a network that can scale, that looks good from the on-chain perspective, and it's nowhere near the scaling pressures it was under in December 2018. They've done other stuff. They've changed slightly how the privacy stuff works with the ring signatures and whatnot, but you can read more into that on the Monero website should you be so interested. And if we look at total fees across all of the kind of important proof of work coins, I put Doge in that category just to show that Doge has higher fees than LTC, Monero, and Zcash combined. And the worst thing you can see is if you're a proof of work network and you've got no fees, that just says that there are very few people participating in your network. And total fees in general across all of these percentage-wise is mostly ETH and BTC, and basically nothing, everything else. So we all know intrinsically where the party's happening, and it's definitely ETH relative to everything else, and that's why fees are so high. When you can't scale but people don't care, fees are going to skyrocket. So I like where fees are at, I like where transactions are at. I like that they successfully changed their algorithm, and it's seemed to have worked to stave off ASICs. If we look at Google Trends have remained relatively low compared to 2017, but compared to late 2018, have continued to rise. And this is important to look at every once in a while to see, are people interested worldwide in Monero? Are there headlines about Monero and what's going on from the sort of grassroots groundswell perspective? And if anything, I'm more bullish on coins that are at an all-time high and you're not seeing Google Trends explode just yet, because that kind of says to me that there's more left. There's more left in the tank. Not everybody's here yet. Not everybody knows about Monero. Monero's not really listed very many places, so it's difficult to get your hands on it, especially in Asia. I don't even know if they can transact in it with Monero on exchanges. So that didn't hurt Monero this January recovery, January 2020, March 2020. Monero played along with everything else in the altcoin land. If we look at the MA multiplier, this is the 1 year 365 MA. This is the multiplier here, 5 times that. And we're still closer to the bottom than we are the top. And I certainly am much more of a buyer when we get below this level. It had an extremely solid run, a nice 10x or plus 15x, I don't know, whatever that is. Didn't quite reach the top yet. Did hit the midline. Historically, it has exceeded the multiplier several times. So I don't think it's out of the question that we could see prices back up here or exceeding this in the next 6 to 12 months. But overall, this pullback looks healthy to me. You know, it's everything needed a drawdown. Everything was just up for weeks and weeks and weeks. Here is Bitfinex open interest, which I don't really have a comment on other than it's a net short. It's a bit weird on how the profile looks. VPVR shows a bunch of support at 130, 140. So anything lower than current price should meet pretty strong support down there. If you are a long-term Monero bull, you definitely don't want to see this $100 horizontal broken psychological support, hopefully at this point. And if you're bullish, you're looking for a bullish divergence on RSI if we do get any lower lows. RSI is currently the lowest it's been since March. So obviously things turned bearish in 2 or 3 days super quickly. This is the 15 to 200 EMA. It hasn't even crossed bearish yet. We're below the 280 moving average or around it. And it's going to take some time for these moving averages to figure out what's going on here. It's probably going to take 30 to 60 days to really know, is this going to be a V bottom on everything? Are we in for a bear market? Are we going to retest lows? I just think we got to clean up the ashes and figure out where we are collectively in crypto, what's going on. Is China done selling? Is whoever else selling done selling? That sort of thing. On the pitchfork though, pick 3 points to get a rate of change. This is the median line here. Price likes to live in this median line. So again, if it droops down to 140 or lower, that's a strong buy for me based on VPVR, based on this pitchfork median line, based on the 365 MA, which historically has been a good buy zone. So I like buys anywhere down here. I think it's just too early to know what's going to happen in the moment, in the near term for price. On the cloud has been rather noisy really since March. It's told you to get in and out a bunch of times. It hasn't been wrong. It's just been noisy. Told you to get in back here, get out, get in, get out, get in, and told you to get out kind of late back here. But right now it's below the cloud for the first time since March, so it's definitely bearish. No doubt about that from that perspective. But again, that's going to take some time to figure out what's going on. On the 2-day MoneroBTC chart, it was briefly above the cloud and dipped all the way back into the cloud, so now it's in a no trade zone. And again, this is going to need 30 to 60 days to figure out, are we bullish above, are we bearish below, what's going on here? There's just no trend at this point. It's probably going to get held within 0.6 and 0.1 for an extended period of time before it figures out what's going on. And if we compare the Monero price to the Zk price, basically flat as well. So as bullish as I am Monero and as bearish as I am Zcash, it still hasn't really played out in Monero's favor just yet. everything is pretty highly correlated. But here's the ZcashBTC chart, which to me looks just continuously bearish over the past 2 years. I just popped on a pitchfork. It helps show you, again, oversold, overbought. It briefly got above, but it couldn't escape the center of mass, which is this median line here. Lastly, I'll just mention the ETH-BTC fund on Enzyme and the DeFi portfolio on Enzyme. Both of these are non-custodial portfolio management tools where you can deposit ETH or USDC into a smart contract, and then I have the ability to directionally trade these. And you can see AUM, performance, allocation, all the trades I make on all the dexes, if I'm in Aave, if I'm swapping on Paraswap or Uni, that sort of stuff. And with the DeFi portfolio, it's highly volatile, so just keep that in mind if you do participate in this. We're seeing insane intraday swings. Maker was up 90% earlier today. Alts are incredibly volatile right now. So our whole stance is we believe in these coins or assets going forward in the next 3 to 6 months. So we've bought the dip on some of them, and we'll be holding through this volatility. And again, you can see AUM, performance, allocation, all the trades I make, that sort of thing. I sold Band yesterday. I sold some ZRX yesterday. Just felt the need to go slightly risk off, even though things were already just down 60, 70%. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.